Hi, everyone, and welcome to StudioJake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you so much for joining me today on my vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture, from film to celebrity news to television to anime, and so much more. I would really appreciate it if you would like this video, that you would share it out, that you would leave a comment. Also, tap or slam that subscribe button. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, and any and all help in that regard would be super. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about a rumor that's going around. So remember, rumor. I know there's this big anti-rumor crowd in the access media and the corporate press when it comes to things like movies and television. I don't know why, but I'm going to report on them because they're fun a lot of times, but take this with a grain of salt. So, the YouTube channel Overlord DVD talked about this. Other YouTubers have pointed out the reason I bring up Overlord DVD is because the host of that channel was the first time I had heard this specific rumor in this specific way. Now, there's always been rumors that George Lucas, of course, the creator of Star Wars, probably one of the greatest science fiction franchises of all time, he has been wanting to buy Star Wars specifically, not necessarily Lucasfilm, but Star Wars specifically back from Disney. He, of course, famously sold it to them. That's how we got The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and all the rest of the lame Disney Star Wars fan fiction. But now apparently this has escalated a little bit with this new tidbit. And I'll elaborate more on my thoughts about it later, but the rumor goes as this. Disney is in a lot of financial trouble, and you can actually see this on the stock market. Their stock continues to drop. They are cutting things left and right. There's talks that Tokyo Disney and Euro Disney and Disney Hong Kong, and I think they have a park in Shanghai, that they're actually talking about selling some of those international parks. There's I don't know how true that is, but they're in such financial straits thanks in part to several failures. Their films continue to do poorly at the box office. The Star Wars Galactic Hotel was an abysmal failure. Park attendance is down, especially at Disney World. They continue to engage in a useless legal battle with the state of Florida. There are rumors that they were involved with a cryptocurrency scandal that went sideways, and there's even more rumors that Bob Chapek knew about it, and that's why he was fired. They are, of course, the whole entertainment industry is being affected by this writer's strike. There's rumors of a SAG strike as well. Some companies are using this to clean house, getting rid of a lot of problematic folks who have ruined good franchises. Disney, on the other hand, is firing all their talent, like they always do. But whatever the case may be, they're in financial strains. I also hear Hulu, Disney, and Comcast, which owns NBC Universal, they kind of co-own Hulu, and there's rumors that, or there's not rumors, this is a fact, they owe Comcast some money in relationship to the connection with Hulu, and Disney doesn't have the cash on hand to pay them back. So, needless all that to say that Disney is in financial in a financially wobbly position. So the rumor is that they are going to sell off some of their franchises they acquired in several of their purchases. So they famously bought Marvel Studios, Pixar, Lucasfilm, 20th Century Fox, now just called 20th Century Studios. So what they're planning on doing is sell off some of the franchises that they had acquired from 20th Century Studios specifically. So 20th Century owns the rights to Die Hard. What is Disney going to do with Die Hard? They could release it as a Touchstone feature, but they can't upload that to Disney Plus. Now, they could if they created and I don't understand why they don't do this, they could create a Touchstone hub within Disney Plus, and they could put those movies there. I think that might help them in the Disney Plus regard. Sometimes they put things on Hulu. They put a lot of the 20th Century Hulu stuff on. But instead, they're actually thinking about offloading or at least licensing some of these franchises. So selling off Die Hard, selling off Alita Battle Angel, selling off Avatar, Alien, Predator. All these different all these different franchises that don't really fit within the Disney brand. There's going to keep Marvel because they still have to tap the X-Men, or the mutants, as Kevin Feige is rumored to want to call it. Now, and part of this is that they are going to try to sell Star Wars. And now Cameron Pashaw, he posits that he believes, and he made this clear that he doesn't know if this is for sure, but he thinks that George Lucas might have put a buyback clause in the contract that he gets first dibs on Star Wars, as if it is. And Cameron Pashaw, I saw this in an interview that he did with Overlord DVD, and apparently he has talked about this on his own Patreon. Disney did something similar with Saban. So they had bought the rights to the Power Rangers and, of course, let that go to crap. And so then Cameron Pashaw says that they sold Power Rangers back to Saban, and that is actually very true. You see this. And I believe it was Power Rangers. Correct me in the comments if I have the wrong franchise. So he was saying this could happen also with Lucas. So George Lucas is famously not happy with how Disney is handling Star Wars. As far as I can tell, the only things he has complimented are The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 and Rogue One. He didn't care for Solo, which lost money. He didn't care for the sequel trilogy. Basically, they approached him like it would be Disney would give him the same deal that Pixar got. So when they bought Pixar from Steve Jobs, they because before Disney was just like Toy Story isn't a Disney movie. Disney just got it into theaters, right? They distributed it, but Pixar was its own studio at the time. And what happened was, the guy who was in charge at the time, John Lasseter, they basically told Steve Jobs that John Lasseter would take over. He was one of the founders of Pixar with Steve Jobs and George Lucas, and Lasseter came on. He had free reign. Of course, he got famously hit with a Me Too allegation that was incredibly benign and bizarre, and Disney used that as an excuse to kick him out. He immediately turned around and went to Skydance Animation, which has a deal with Apple TV, and he hired a bunch of his loyalists from Pixar, and so they had to fill a lot of those job requirements with new people who didn't know the franchise, didn't understand it, didn't know the audience, couldn't even make it in the big time, and with animators that they pinched from Blue Sky, which was owned by 20th Century Fox at the time. So that's kind of a brief history of Pixar. Well, Lucas got it even worse. So Lucas would be allowed to choose his successor. He, of course, mistakenly, in my opinion, chose Kathleen Kennedy. He had worked with her on the Indiana Jones series. Of course, he should have just talked to his friend Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg obviously does not like Kathleen Kennedy, but nevertheless, he picked her. They were good friends, and as soon as Bob Iger wrote that check to her, she stabbed him in the back so fast, and Disney micromanaged the franchise. They got rid of the treatments that Lucas had wrote for potential sequels, and basically chased him out. And he even compared the sale of Lucasfilm to white slavers later on. And Disney worked really hard to silence that interview, to bury it, to memory hole it, but it's out there. Just Google it. And so now he is in a position with Disney failing to captivate audiences with their take on Star Wars, with their take on Willow, with their take on Indiana Jones. Since they have failed to wow audiences in that regard, they're thinking of offloading it. It's been too expensive. So they could possibly sell it back to George Lucas for a song. Now, here is, and I personally, like I said, I think that is a possibility. However, just my opinion, I am going to wait and see. Like, obviously, Star Wars has not proven profitable for Disney, but Disney has this thing where once they become a barnacle on something, they don't want to let it go. It's kind of what's happening with Sony's Spider-Man, right? So Amy Pascal, she's trying to build a Sony Spider-Man universe. and it's not going that well, right? Venom has been their only success. Morbius was terrible. Of course, what'd you expect putting Jared Leto in that position? And also, with and Craven the Hunter is not looking that great either, to be frank. But and also all the Madame Web spinoff that they're talking about, all this, it just seems absolutely ridiculous. And Disney is the same thing now. Um, the only I don't see this happening until Bob Iger leaves. So Mike Eisner, say what you want to about the Disney direct-to-DVD sequels, he still understood Disney. He had worked with the Disney family prior to taking over, so he at least understood the brand. He did make some missteps with the international parks, and like I said, with the direct-to-DVD content, but don't forget, he had huge successes on Toon Disney with the theatrical films. He ushered in the Disney Renaissance. The problem with Bob Iger is Bob Iger didn't understand Disney. He was kind of riding that Eisner wave. He thought Disney needed to expand. They needed to get new things. So that's when Marvel Studios comes in. That's when Pixar comes in. Or excuse me, Pixar was actually under their first deal was under Eisner, but all the changes that were made, 20th Century Studios, Lucasfilm, he brought all these things in because he thought that Disney needed to expand into new properties. Nothing wrong with that idea, but he did too much too fast, and then a recession hit, and then he bought into the whole politically correct nonsense. They decided to alienate fans of those franchises, call them out of date, right? They did the whole Bud Light thing. The brand is actually dying and fratty and blah, 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 and I'm going to lecture to you. They fell into that trap before, they were Bud Light before Bud Light was a thing. And it's really hurt Star Wars specifically. Willow was never really that popular of a franchise. That's why they didn't do a sequel to the film. So a television series based on it didn't make sense. But they were just trying to milk that that franchise, that vault, if you will, the Lucasfilm vault. So I'm all that to say, I don't see Star Wars being sold to anyone, much less George Lucas, until Bob Iger is gone. I think once Bob Iger is gone, they get another person who cares more about the money and pleasing investors. I could see then Lucasfilm selling, but I'll believe it when I see it. It would be the ultimate cope to sell it back to George Lucas, and we get his franchises. It's really sad because a lot of the great actors who were in the original series who got dumbed down in the sequel trilogy, they're passed away, so we would have to recast people. Personally, I would love to see Ulrich try again at Han Solo. He definitely had the look. I would love to see Sebastian Stan play Luke Skywalker. I would love to see Carrie Fisher's daughter play Princess Leia. I think George Lucas understands it. Another reason I would be concerned that if it happened, it's just not going to please the first trilogy and no other crowd. It's just not. I mean, unless, he does more kid stuff like he did with Clone Wars, I just don't see them being pleased. We saw the vitriolic and still see the vitriolic attacks that they do against the prequel series, but the fact is, the prequel haters are the reason we got the Disney sell. Even though the general populace loved the prequels and real fans like myself, we loved the prequels, the prequel haters threw massive hissy fits online. They turned a lot of other fans who might have been, maybe didn't like it as much, but still against it, made it popular on YouTube to crap all over it. Of course, Red Letter Media did their terrible reviews of it. They were, for some reason, big. I don't get it. They're such snobs. But anyway, in the grand scheme of things, if George Lucas came back and did do a new trilogy without Disney, and he brought in his own people. He maybe brings back Jon Favreau, who has done, and not Tony Gilroy, maybe Tony Gilroy. I mean, he did do Andor. Andor was pretty good, but he brings in actual people who care about the franchise. He fires Kathleen Kennedy's writers' room. The High Republic is gone. He keeps it on track. I just don't buy that that so-called fans that only want the original trilogy, I just don't buy that they would like it. I think they would find some reason to hate it, like they did with the prequels, like they did with the Clone Wars, and that they would throw fits about it, and just for clicks. But anyway, if they do, I have, and if George Lucas does buy it back and it ends up being fantastic, I will talk about it. If it ends up being terrible, I will talk about it honestly, just like I have with the Disney stuff. I'm honest. I liked the first two seasons of The Mandalorian. I liked Andor. I loved Visions. Visions has been the best of the Disney stuff, at least season one, and I liked Rogue One. I think Rogue One is on par with the other films, but you know, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. As far as this rumor, I think it's a possibility, but it's also one of those I'll believe it when I see it. Let me know what you think, and do you have any Star Wars rumors you would like me to talk about? I'd be happy to on this channel. I love talking about rumors. They're fun, they're juicy, everyone has a good time. Whatever the case may be, I'll still always be a Star Wars fan, just not Disney Star Wars. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment and tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to Studio Jake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.